Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Inview. This is the weekly show where we have lots of different guests. As you can see on screen, we've got 7:20 tonight. Susan Horwell, tell you a little bit about Susan Horwell. She's channeler, healer, gives guidance through angel, animal, and fluorescent cards, offering a range of bespoke treatments. But she also wrote an amazing book, which is called Stranger in My Own Skin, which I know she's going through about going through a breakdown through menopause with no medication. And she's doing an update version at the moment. She's coming on to talk about that and talk about a one-to-one session she does with women going through the menopause as well. And obviously lots of other things as well. 8 o'clock tonight, we have now Gemma Brookes, who is on at 8 o'clock tonight, was on the show on Wednesday. Rang in about all sorts of different things. It was really, really nice. And Gemma is coming on tonight to tell a story. Now, her story is quite heart-wrenching in relation to how she's been treated by the NHS, and it will show flaws and gaps within the medical world and appointments. And I'm sure she's not the only one. I'm sure there are many, many other people out there exactly the same. But she's a British female heavyweight boxer, equestrian. She does equestrian, works with horses. In the past, she's a musician turned Athena spirit, cyclist, businesswoman, comedian, lover of trance, eater of chocolate, also working as a psychic on Mediumchat and Psychic Sofa, and owner director of Regal Communication Limited, and above all, a truth seeker. She's on at 8 o'clock tonight, and then 9 o'clock tonight we got the return of the Monster Hunter. Now, what's interesting, we're going all over the country here, because Susan Horwell we're going to speak to is all the way down in Cornwall. What a lovely part of the world. I love it down there. Gemma Brookes is all the way up in Birmingham. And the Monster Hunter is going to be in Loch Ness, looking for the Loch Ness Monster. So how are you all out there this week? How are you all doing? Because obviously, you know, we are in quite a significant lockdown, to be honest. As I spoke about on Wednesday, and I don't belittle, I know that there is something out there and it is not very good and it is killing people. But in relation to my own opinion, my own view has been, since it's come about, that this is a fake news story. Yes, there is something out there, but there is every year. This is draconian. This is Nazism and communism all in one hit. And I'll tell you why, because some of the things I'm going to tell you in a minute, you're going to start thinking, what on earth is going on? But it's a good show on Wednesday. And I'd like to say, for everyone that listened, watched, or replayed on YouTube or Facebook, we got 150 views on Facebook from Wednesday night. And we got 100 views on YouTube at least. So I'm very grateful for that, and we will bring that back this Wednesday, but we're going to change it a little bit as well, because it's not only just your show, but we're going to bring in the paranormal bit. So I'm going to be talking about a certain subject every week for half an hour on the show, for your comments and everything else as well. So that'd be very interesting as well. I hope you're all well out there. I know that the situation you're sitting in is a difficult one, because basically you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. And, you know, we've been this the third time now. And you start thinking, when is it going to end? Is there an end to this? Well, as I said on Wednesday, if anyone of you are listening, I do believe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but we've got to go down a very black, dark rabbit hole before we get there. And obviously, we got a situation with people that are in government that are completely misleading, not telling the truth, are deceitful, are liars, and in my opinion, to what you should know, basically. I want to read you a few things that I've come across in the last few days, because you know where we sit at the moment. Jason McCusborough has joined us. Hello, Jace. How are you? I hope you're well. Gemma says, Jack of all trades, master of none. I'm sure that's not true at all. And Penny Warwick says, hello, Penny, welcome along. Now, we're in pretty draconian lockdown rules. they're thinking about actually making it more difficult. Can you believe that? Making it more difficult than what it is. Is this a breakdown of your civil liberties? That's my question. Is it a breakdown of your civil liberties? Or is it because they're really trying to protect you? Do you believe in them? That's the thing. Do you believe in what they say to you? Personally, I don't. I don't believe them at all. But many people do. Melanie Kellaway, who is coming on the show in not too distant future. Hello, how are you? Great to have you on board. Matt Hancock is not ruling out bringing in even tougher measures. And let me tell you something today that you might not know about. Richard Gardner, Apollo, good evening, Clint. I can't stay, so we'll have to catch up later. Jack of all trades is being versatile. It's great to have you on board, Richard, for whatever time you're going to be here. You see, the thing is that our news is biased for us in this country. It doesn't look at anything outside the window. It doesn't go to Al Jazeera, doesn't go to RT, doesn't tell you anything what's going on. Because you'll be quite surprised at what's happening in some of the other countries. Canada is about to embark on a curfew, and that is where you will not be allowed out in Canada from 8 o'clock in the evening till 5 in the morning. That is actually happening, and that is going to be law very shortly. So in Canada, you won't be go out between 8 and 5. If you think we're draconian, you think this is getting draconian, this is absolutely the limit, I'll tell you. Now, curfews, Gemma Brookes says, if they stop the exercise, that will affect mental health even more and affect vitamin D levels, which are needed to fight COVID. You're absolutely right. It will. But rules that Matt Cock is thinking about doing is bringing in curfews. He's thinking about closing nurseries. He's thinking about ending support bubbles. And we must wear masks outside, and we can have 1 hour exercise a week. Who are these people? Aren't you sick to death of being led by dickheads, basically, that have no idea of what they're talking about? They're going and bringing a scientific field to the equation. But what is this scientific field? Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. I want to tell you something else that is on Trudy Miller's wall, but comes from Jane Lee Miller. This is very true, actually. Italy and Pakistan had blackouts, so no electricity was in Italy and Pakistan. Berlin too. Berlin had no electricity. Now we're being advised that the UK could have them. I'm not scaremongering here. I'm just putting something on paper. I'm putting something on paper for you to look at and think about. The UK could have them. And if we do, then water pumps will stop. So our water supply will stop. Should only be for a few hours or so, but be prepared. Stock up on water for drinking, filling pans in your bath. So although this may not play out, please make sure you have water, candles and blankets available. Difficult and predictable days of darkness seem to be upon us, but the necessary work is going on in the background. I actually believe that. Gemma Brooks says prison sounds more pleasant. I totally agree with you. I'm dumbfounded at where we sit in this reality with all of this. It is absolutely shocking. And I'll tell you what, in my wildest dreams, I always go back to people that fought in world wars for this country. What do they fight for? For Boris Johnson and his government stand up and lie. Because all you get constantly is the fact there isn't enough nurses. There isn't enough beds. There isn't enough this. There isn't enough that. Look at this. See this here? You can see it. This is about the Nightingale Hospital. And it says at an overflowing hospital, medics are forced to treat a COVID patient in the car park. Yet just miles away, a flagship Nightingale Hospital is dismantled while others stand empty. So what actually is going on? Can somebody tell me when they dismantled the Nightingale Hospital, they dismantled it and got rid of it? Because at the time they said that we have capacity to treat as many patients as possible. And now it's this surge and the new variant that's come in. What's going on? Why is it empty? Why is it empty? On Wednesday, I played a film, a soundtrack of a person that went there and see that actually is totally empty. Penny Warwick says what happened with the Vatican blackouts and the Pope being arrested. Is this true? I don't know, actually, Penny. It could well be. The Pope should be arrested because I do feel that he heads a very, in my opinion, allegedly, you know, what you've got there is a nasty, nasty cult, in a way, is the way to describe it. The Vatican is very much down to having their own police force, their own observatory, and of course the Vatican also holds secret records that nobody can go and see of what they've stole around the world and what they've accrued from all indigenous people around the world that had very special things. Gemma Brookes said, if we have blackouts, that would mean people with full freezers losing their supplies of food, people on machines in hospital and ventilators ending up in trouble, and that's a worry. How can we have blackouts this day and age? I know. My question completely, how can we have blackouts in this day and age? It's not right. It's completely and utterly wrong. We live in the 21st century. It's like we're going in the dark age. It's like we're stepping back in time. We're stepping back in history to a place that you know, we didn't have the technology and the advancement of what we got now. So what else have we got in the news? And remember, we've in 9 minutes we have got Susan Horwell coming up at 7:20. We have got a story here. 5 days for 100,000. Listen to this: 100,000 people to race back to UK. Up to 100,000 Brits have 5 days to get home to get cleared by a COVID test. The race is on. To beat new border rules will be imposed on Wednesday and Thursday. After that, anyone arriving in Britain by plane, train or boat must present a negative PCR test taken up to 72 hours before travelling. My question is, why is there so many people coming back here? And are they all British citizens? That's my question. And the fact is, as I said on Wednesday, if you go on flighttracker.com, I think it is, flighttracker.com, you can see that actually in the sky, there is thousands and thousands of planes flying right now there. And we're in a world lockdown apparently, but we're not. Another story is some key workers' children will be denied school places because of surge in demand, ed teachers warn. They will miss out as schools defy the government by rationing classroom spots. Again, in the 21st century, why aren't we at a place where these children don't need to go to a school? Why aren't we teaching them at home? And why aren't we giving support to them so that their key workers can go out and work and somebody comes there and actually is supporting them? What else we've got here? Cold-hearted police force was slammed yesterday after threatening to hand out fines for throwing snowballs because we've had terrible weather and it's been very cold. West Mercia police told residents on social media that playing with snow breaches COVID rules. I'm sorry. Playing with playing with snow breaches COVID rules. It came after the force received 2 reports of snowballs being thrown in Broseley and Shropshire. Their Safer Neighbourhood team said online, this is not just for a reason to be out your house. It is likely to result in a £200 fixed penalty fine. And you know that fixed penalty fine can go up to £6,400 very quickly because it doubles. Jason McCusborough says lockdown. There is no lockdown. Far more. What's he saying? Hang on. Sorry. Far more. Far more cars on the road than should be. They can't all be going to work or shopping for essentials. I know, you're right. I've been outside. There's lots of people out there. Loads of people driving about. Lots of people walking about as well. And I find it astounding. But because, you know, let's look at the fact that this week we had the return of the clap for carers. It's not clap for carers, clap for heroes, clap for everyone basically that's working, which I take my hat off to as well. And it had a muted response, which means that a lot of people didn't go out there and do it. A lot of people didn't go out there and clap. So there's a turn, there's a change in the air. People are not necessarily believing everything they're being told. Penny says they don't want you to have any fun. We need positive vibes to lift the fear. The positivity is what we carry inside ourselves. And obviously it's very difficult because we can't meet, because they don't want us to meet, because when we meet, then we can actually integrate and actually connect, which means that as long as they can keep us fragmented, we have got the internet, but as long as they can physically keep us fragmented, then they feel that they're safe. But let me tell you something. This government, as many around the world, are terrified at what they're doing because they know that they're on a losing wicket and they're very in fear, believe me. Gemma Brookes says the 7 Nigerians who had hijacked a tanker ship in the Solent have been released without charge and have applied for asylum. I don't understand that. I haven't seen that story. I don't understand why they're released. This law's an arse, isn't it? 7 Nigerians who hijacked the tanker ship in the Solent have been released without charge and have applied for asylum. They'll probably all get a house next week. And you know, I'm not racist in any shape or form, but you know, there does come to a limit. Australia had the right idea. It said we're not allowing anyone else in. Bearing in mind, years and years ago, way back, we were sending people there. They're all criminals, but as Gemma says, there no fine for those criminals. It's not right. It's completely not right. And of course, the biggest news, of course, is the fact that apparently the jab is going to be the lifeline for everyone. So the jab's going to help everyone, and we're all going to have it, and everything's going to be great. And of course, you've seen these posters, haven't you? Stay at home, save lives, save the NHS, save everything. Act like you've got it. Act like you have COVID. And then we've got Chris Whitty doing Chris Whitty is the person that should never ever be in front of a camera. I feel he looks like an alien. And he doesn't look like he's a nice person to meet in a dark alleyway on a night. Could shift shape into something else. But Chris Whitty is doing a new campaign, which is, you know, act like you have it. Act like you have it. Act like you have coronavirus. What sort of mental message are we giving to the people there? Act like you've got it. Fear is thrown at you every second of the day. Forget about COVID. Fear was thrown at us in all sorts of different ways before. But now we have COVID. It's been heightened. It's been heightened because, you know, COVID is something that's getting bigger and bigger, and it's this and it's that, and all the figures, and you know, they keep coming out and bringing out new figures all the time. And when they keep bringing out new figures all the time, they're saying 1,300 people died yesterday and 900 and whatever died in the last 24 hours. 56,000 have COVID. I'm not disputing, because I haven't seen those figures and what are they made up of. But my argument is, which I'm sure Gemma will be talking about later on, my argument is, what about the cancer patients? What about the hip replacements? What about the life-threatening heart disease patients? How many of them have died? How many have died of cancer in the last 24 hours? Because they haven't been treated, because they haven't been seen. Because COVID has overtaken everything. COVID is it. That's it. That's all they're interested in. And I know Gemma has very strong views on that, because she'll give her story, which I know outlines how suspect the NHS is. And you must remember, the NHS is an institution. It's not been run well for years and years and years. It's not been run well for years and years and years. We have got our first guest. What about that? Hello, is that Susan?
Yes, it is, Clint.
Hello, Susan. How are you?
I'm not so bad. And yourself?
All the way down in sunny Cornwall.
Yes, all the way down in sunny Cornwall.
Absolutely.
I for what you were saying about, the fear.
Yeah.
And, fear is one of the biggest things that will deplete your immune system.
Yes, it will. Totally.
And of course, that's, probably the aim in.
Well, yes, because it is to create fear so that you burn more energy. And as you burn more energy, you are actually depleting yourself of the vitals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's one of the because you don't hear anybody like as an advocate, because of obviously writing the book, of well-being.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody saying on the news or anywhere about, just these are sort of simple things that you could do to help yourself, regain, good health, like vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, finding. I don't hear any of that anyway. It's just that.
Yeah, but they won't tell you any of that because it's real. It works. That's what they don't tell you. What they tell you is the vaccine will sort you out.
Well, no.
Which you and I know will not.
No, going to make your it's a sticky wicket, that is. Wicket. I don't like to see what the repercussions of that's going to be.
I think we see in this transition period we're in that this fear is really getting to people.
Yeah.
Propaganda.
It's getting
fascist
worse.
propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, it's like being in a prison camp.
Yes, it is. We are in our own prison. Yes, we can move about and go outside, but only for a little while and then go back home.
Yeah, it's not a nice place. And I think spiritually, we know that we've got to go through this.
Yeah.
To get out to the other side. But I think it's going to get a little bit more worse before we get better.
Oh yeah, we've got to go into the dark tunnel before we come out and see the light. There's no doubt about that.
It's a bit like having a boil, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Is.
And you've got that. You can't just put a plaster over it. You've got to sort of lance it and dig out the dirt as such.
Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of the key factor of it. Yes.
Yes, there's the whole caboose of it. Yeah. So I think from someone that's looking on and obviously an advocate for good health as much as you can, I find that ridiculous to not be able to tell people how to keep well rather than relying on a vaccine and stuff, because
but they don't even do it on the NHS website. They're not even telling people anything like that.
No. I think, and some of those little Zoom meetings I might do, like breakfast meetings or whatever, I do tend to tell, to say this, and I say it's about trying to keep our our body, as well as it can be expected. I mean, you can only do your best, no one's saying that, you've got to be doing 900 push-ups a day and 30 laps around the block, but realistically, as much as you can do, is to keep yourself well. And we're in January. What happened to flu?
Well, it gets virulent in January and February.
Yeah, but we don't hear nobody's had a flu, nobody's had a cold, nobody's had a sore throat,
No, but on Worldometer, there is 750,000 people died of seasonal flu so far in the world.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing. But
it is, but everything's got to be put in context. So I said also on there that 26,000 people have died of no food today.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And everything's got to be put in context. We are being put into such a draconian state when, the figures are not representative for the 50 or 60 million people that live in the UK.
No.
in my opinion.
And I think the trouble is, it's like, with the elderly, so, I've got an elderly aunt and I've got an elderly mum who has, the beginnings of Alzheimer's. But, when I ring her in the evening, she sort of says, oh, it's really bad too, isn't it? And I go, but Mum, don't watch it. Please don't watch it. When you see it come on, please turn it off. Yeah. Don't watch it, because you can't believe everything.
No, you can't. You can't, because they lie. Matt Cox stood in Parliament and said the Nightingale Hospital is all ready to take people in. It's empty.
It's shut. Yeah. And the other thing I noticed is there's a little bit of bit more brainwashing. They said the Queen would be having it. Well, we know the Queen has homeopathy and herbs. So I very much doubt the Queen would be having it. But as soon as my
apparently, by the news story, she has had it, apparently, and so has Prince Philip.
Yeah. I don't believe it, because they have their own homeopathy first aid kit that they take around with them. Yeah. And I know that because of a lady that I see is homeopathic lady. Yeah. So, that's a nice little bit of brainwashing for the elderly. Queen's had it, so they will rock off and do it. But
I mean, you must remember they grow and eat meat from the animals that they have as well. So they're not going to Tesco's.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No.
There's a few comments on here. I'll just read out. It says, Gemma says it's the uncertainty that is torturous. The uncertainty. Yeah. It says, not forgetting, right at the beginning of the pandemic, Public Health England flu and COVID figures would be combined, which they are. And Penny Warwick says, yes, no one has died of flu or pneumonia. It's all down to COVID. Even if tested positive in the last month, they all died of COVID. And of course, you get paid more if that's on a certificate. And Gemma says, even if they died accidentally, like hit by a bus, it's added as a COVID death within 28 days of a positive COVID test. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm not the only one, and you're not the only one. There is thousands of people out there that have the same opinion.
There's getting more, isn't there? There's getting more. If you see it on Facebook now, or you can see that the numbers are rising of those people that are questioning more. So I did say to Mum, question everything, Mum.
Absolutely.
Don't take anything you read for, whatever. But I did notice on your introduction at 7 that you were talking about Gemma that's coming on later, about how she's been failed with the
she's been failed with being, she's been let down with appointments and I'm not going to go through all I'll let her tell you what that is, but it's very, very interesting. You should listen to it.
Yes, I
will. Because she's got appointments that are well off in the distance, you know what I mean, that shouldn't be.
I think so. I'm going to listen to that at 8, because it's something that is happening, but it was something, because I write anyway, because and that's what I'm here about, my book and that. But
absolutely, we're going to talk about your book, Stranger in Your Own Skin.
A Stranger in My Own Skin, yeah. So I do write in there, you see, that obviously when I was going through the menopause, I actually had a breakdown, and the system completely failed me. So
I suppose all they wanted to do was give you medication.
They wanted to put me on antidepressants, and I said, but I'm not depressed. And of course they do. I said to them that I think my hormones are out of balance, so now I'm possibly approaching the menopause. Yeah. And they sort of think, oh well, we'll do a test, but I did obviously a lot of research about it, and I found out that if the test is not done at the right time, a bit like a thyroid test, it can come back, inconclusive, really.
Yeah.
It did come back and it said that I wasn't, but of course, as the month went on and I did a bit more research as soon as I took some progesterone, within hours my mood started to change. So
really, in what way?
well, the black cloud that I was under, because I think the term burnout and that it can be used quite flippant sometimes, and it, you know, you can hear people on Facebook saying, "I've had a burnout," but they can't find the right pair of shoes in Debenhams or something. You know,
yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of drugs, isn't there? And there's one I want to mention here because I know that Gemma has worked with horses for years and years and years, and actually pointed out to me that there's an estrogen replacement drug called Premarin prescribed to menopausal women.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't know if you know about that or not.
I don't know about any drugs at all.
But this is quite interesting because it's made from horses' urine.
Oh, right. Okay.
The drug's name is short for pregnant mares. About 750,000 mares are impregnated each year for the sole purpose of collecting their estrogen-rich urine, tied in small stools, unable to move either backwards and forwards or sideways, or lay down comfortably. They stand with sacks strapped to their groins for months on end. Absolutely disgusting, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Nobody knows about that.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, and then we're supposed to trust the NHS. Yeah,
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
no,
what people tend to forget, and I banged the drum loads and loads of times, the NHS doesn't work. It's not run properly. It's got too many quangos in it. It's not run in the way it should be, and it's certainly not run by the top by it should be. Do you know what I mean?
No. I mean, I've been failed by the NHS, quite a few times, and in fact,
but when you first went there, what did they say to you?
What, you mean the doctors?
Yeah.
They just said, they wanted to give me antidepressants, as I said, and I said, no, I'm not depressed. Do you want some counselling? And I went, and I thought, I better show willing. Let's opt for that. It's less drugs. And went along to that, and that failed me. And actually, the counsellor was asking me, was being inappropriate in the way he was starting to tell me what to do rather than
really
just live. Yeah, and I reported him, and I asked if I could have a change of counsellor, and she said, I don't know about that. And I said, well, I think I'm entitled if he's not behaving the way he should. And well, that was about 2006.
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago now. I'm still waiting for them to ring me up to change the counsellor.
I'm not laughing because of it, but it's just mad, isn't it?
I'm still waiting about that. So I just had to do my own research, find my own way of healing. And so obviously the first book I wrote almost whilst I was still going through the tail end of it. But this book I'm rewriting is much more in depth, and it also has other ladies' stories within it as well. When this started, when the idea for the book and everything, when you came away from the doctors, you must have felt completely deflated and thought, what am I going to do? I did, but because the thing is, I couldn't go outside. I couldn't. If I went to the doctors, which was not very far, I'd have to get Ray to take me. I couldn't get in the car and drive on my own. I could barely go outside to hang the washing out. I mean, when I say I had a breakdown, it was, like I say, it wasn't like,
I know.
Find the right food in Debenhams.
Well, it brings all sorts of other things on, like panic attacks and anxiety and all sorts.
Anxiety, my mind was absolutely racing with all sorts of things, questioning everything.
Yeah.
It was a dark place. I didn't want to be on my own, but I didn't want too many people there because the chatter. And I had to, in amongst that turmoil, find my medicine and sort of get well.
So did you woke up one day and thought, I've got to do something about this, and that is an intention within inside. And if in a way, this story is very it's not uncommon in the world we live in right now, because I'm sure, obviously not going through menopause, but there are many in an equivalent, if you like. There's many people that are in a very anxiety, stressed, panic attacked, and in a way, mental breakdown state right now.
It does fit it, and it's quite apt that I was rewriting it in the COVID-19 spell, which is what I do say when I'm rewriting it, that I am writing it within this spell, and a lot of the stuff that I'll be writing will be, will be able to help you whether you're menopausal or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was the universe guiding me. I do believe I had to go through it to come out the other end and then go on and help guide other people. This is not about me also making these people better, because obviously I'm an instrument for healing as well.
Yeah.
It's not
the intuition was to actually do it, so it's part of your destiny path.
Yes, it was, and so every little step I took, from to dark to shade to light, I was guided. So it would be somebody would. I needed to find my own way of getting into a more peaceful place, first of all, so that I could then tap in a little bit more to myself and find out the next bit of information.
I think what you're saying there, sorry to butt in, I think what you're saying there is very true. And I think that actually really should resonate with everyone, because we have to sometimes stop everything and just go blank within and look at ourselves and give ourselves time out of the rat race and the fear and God knows what else. And the same in the case of menopause. I'm using it as an example and equal in this reality, if you like, in relation to what we're in, because people should just take time out for themselves and not look at phones, not go on the internet, not do anything. Just go and read a book. Just sit down and just be you.
Yeah, and that's I think also a lot of spiritual people are finding that now, that they need, even though we do need a bit of hermit time, we do need a bit of time to strengthen ourselves and find that peace and take ourselves back to just finding our breath and just breathing and concentrating and what makes us feel better. So our own medicine, whether that's dancing, singing, just being
whatever it is you want to do.
Whatever it is that is your own medicine, because everybody's got their own medicine. So this time round has been different. Writing the book, I joined some writers groups back in last year, some wild women writers groups, and I found myself writing about my womb, actually.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you wrote about your womb, what did you write?
It was just a poem, really, but it just flowed, and it was I actually call it my untamed womb, because every woman has an untamed womb. Well, you can't tame it. It does exactly what it wants to do. And it just came. So it was either, I was either downloading it. But I found that it told the unique story of what happened to me in my in my womb-like years.
Yeah.
And one day I read it out to a friend, and it actually unlocked something within her. And I thought, oh no, this is interesting.
Wow.
And so I sort of used it as along with what I would call my well-being card readings. And what happens is it unlocks something, and I'm using some of those ladies' stories within my book as well, of how it's helped to heal, because like anything, if you've got
Well,
because
no
I'm
one
well.
talks about the womb. No one talk. You
No.
see, these things are brushed under a carpet, and you know, it's not. It's incredibly hard being a woman. You know, the things you have to go through, and then you come to a point where you go through a menopause, which is a mad, crazy time. But no one talks about the womb, and no one talks about the fact that actually within the womb we can carry stuff from within inside ourselves from past lives within our womb that we need to clear, that come out in at time of menopausal state.
Yeah, and I do. I mean, I know that I've been told by other, you know, whether that's been people that have channeled healing or whatever, that in many lifetimes I've had many children, and part of that has contributed to the horrendous, you know, menopause that I sort of went through. But you know, there was things that I myself had brushed under the carpet, and it hadn't, you know, not been dealt with, and so that didn't, you know, I'm finding that is helping when if you know, if I'm working with other ladies, to just help gently to unlock that, and help them to move on emotionally. Then the physical things are a little easier. And I've learned a lot through that, and obviously I'm well out the other side now. So it's not like I'm sort of.
I can understand why you're rewriting it, because you probably got a different take on many things that you've been through. At the time that you were writing, you thought, I need to add things to that.
Yes, I think you're right. I think I wanted to get that out, and that book has been helpful, which is wonderful. But this one is much, it's much deeper, and it's like I said, I'm not going to be telling any one person what to do. That's not not for me to do. I'm helping to unlock it, and they go off and do. If they want to take that guidance, then that they can, and equally, if they don't need to either. You know?
I suppose in a way, it's about all our journeys are uniquely different, and they're not easy, which means that we have to deal with them in the ways that we deal with things within inside ourselves, and this is where reality fails people miserably, because all they want to do, you go there and they want to give you antidepressants. Well, it's obviously not your problem, you know. But wouldn't it be great if you went there and said, no, we're going to give you some well-being treatment on you and give you some positivity and understanding. They don't do any of that. They just want you hooked up onto the pharma system. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I did. I think I did also write. This week I've had to rewrite something that this is odd, because I wrote something quite a few, well, not a few years ago, but quite a few months ago, and I lost it on my memory chip, so I've had to rewrite it. And a couple of days ago, I thought, I've got to get this out now. It was about the time I had a traumatic miscarriage where I died for a minute and I came back, and then that was the time that showed me that there was more to life than what we
know in a reality. Yeah.
Reality.
Yeah.
But what happened? That was 1984, and then a few years ago, my daughter had a miscarriage on the same day and the same date and the same time.
Wow, really? The same day, and the same time.
Date and an approximate same time that it started, and it went on through that weekend and actually sort of finished off on the same day and the same date as well.
Wow, that is people can say, well, that's a coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think there's great significance to that, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. So I sort of needed to write it, but what I found when I was writing was the fact that the feeling that I had before I lost the baby, my intuition was telling me, even though people were telling me, no, you're wrong, Sue, I'm saying, no, I'm going to lose this baby. I'm not going to keep it. Nobody took notice. So it was about that, and it was about how when you're fragile and you're frail, you can get swept along with what those you perceive to be in charge, doctors and whatever.
That sounds like reality.
I won't tell you what happened. I don't think it's really fit for the radio. But I mean, there was something very barbaric went on, and I had to report it. But it seemed very apt about what was going on with the vaccines now, in a way, because it was about trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, being on the ball, asking questions, etc., etc. So it was quite timely. I thought that I just felt that urge to get that down onto paper this week or last week. Yeah.
Well, I think that's really, really important, to be honest, and obviously it's a clearing for yourself as well within you. I mean, I'd like to read out a comment here, Gemma Brookes, who's on after you tonight, and I agree with her. It's very brave of Susan to talk and write about this woman's issue, to raise awareness, because it happens to all women, and it is as massively disruptive to women as puberty is to a girl. Massive hormonal upheaval. The thing is, I know that a lot of men would probably switch off and all sorts, but you know, I think it's really important that we have an understanding of what everyone has to go through. So you might have a partner, or you might have somebody with you, a wife or whatever, that is going through it. And obviously with a man, because they're not going through it, most men are very blind, if you like, to themselves, to what's happening, aren't they?
Yeah, well, and this book actually includes, in fact, if anybody out there who's a guy who has supported his wife through a difficult time through the menopause, and they want to tell me their story, I'm looking just for a couple more guys who, you know, want to tell their side, because I have got one guy's story about how his marriage actually broke up through his wife's menopause, but he actually went on to help a stranger through hers. So you know, that's because I do put it. There is a chapter for men in my book as well.
Well, I think it's really important, and I think that the day and age we live in is that we've got to stop being blinkered and stop being too scared to talk about things. I mean, I'm a woman, if you like. So I'm male and female, because I have a great understanding of what feminines have to go through. And I do feel that one of the biggest problems in relationship is a breakdown of communication of what people have to go through within inside themselves, that they don't talk about, that is not discussed. And I do know that there is a lot of ignorant men that would not be interested, but you know, in a way, you have to ask yourself, if they're ignorant like that, do they really love that person? Do you know what I mean? Because if they really love that person, then they'd be prepared to listen and sit down and listen and say, you know, they can't make it better, but if you know you're supported in a very difficult time, and I know it's in, you know, you go through enormous amounts of things in menopause, sweats and all sorts of stuff. It's horrible. Do you know what I mean?
It is. There's a lot of breakups, a lot of marriage breakups and ordinary breakups with menopause. And you know, your hormones.
Well, a lot of men just say you're going mad.
They're your messengers. They are your messengers, and of course, if you listen quietly to those messages that you're being told when they're changing, you get the answer. But there's people, like you said, they don't want to be still. And I hadn't been going out with Ray very long when this happened to me. But you know, he was always there for me. Yes, he didn't know what the hell was happening to me, and
but you had some communication about it.
If I was having a really bad day, and I'd ring him at work and say, Ray, please come home, I'm scared. And I couldn't tell you what I was scared about, but I'm scared. And he said, I'll pack up and I'll come. And he'd just come home. And even when he was home, he couldn't really say anything.
Yeah, but he's there.
But he was there. I felt safer with him there, even though my mind may well have been, in turmoil. At least he was there.
Gemma Brookes says, and the marriage vows are supposed to be in sickness as well as in health. And they're supposed to be, but it's forgotten about, isn't it? Because, if something becomes too difficult, and 9 times out of 10, men inside themselves have a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, a lot of worries, a lot of things they don't talk about because they're historically locked up people inside themselves. Do you know what I mean? And then what they do is they vent their frustration. So you're going through menopause or whatever, say in a relationship, you're going through a menopause and it's horrendous and you just want to be supported, have a cuddle and know they're there. And all they're doing is venting their frustration because they're angry, because they don't understand what's going on with you, because they won't listen to you. This is not right. It's not right.
No.
Daphne Kavanagh, who's joined us, says, my son phoned me to say, you are going to take a vaccine, aren't you, Mum? I said, right now, no. I said, since work is going to keep me even more locked down, I will hardly see a soul until mid-Feb. My gut says no. Dee says, hi, Clint, great show. Daphne Kavanagh says, thank you for your honesty, Susan. And I really respect the fact when people come on and they actually tell the real story. Some people won't want to hear it. It's not something you're going to get on mainstream television. Do you know what I mean? Because they think, well, the viewing figures go down because all the men are turned off. But the fact is that these things need to be talked about because they affect not just you physically as a woman, but mentally as well. Because as you said already, you were going through a menopause and had a breakdown at the same time.
It was because of the severe lack of progesterone in my body. Because, like I say, it was that severe imbalance. And the thing is, I had to, obviously, when knew what I was going to be having, I would be taking like a couple of those, maybe a progesterone. They came in separate tablets back then. You take one a day for 3 days. Now, if I would take that tablet, another whole tablet on the 4th day, that would maybe be too much for me. So it would take me back to where I was before. So in the end, I learned to dowse for them, Clint, so that I was actually in charge of this. Do you know what I'm saying? I would dowse my pills. I would have do I need this progesterone tablet today? No. Then do I need this estrogen tablet today? No. That meant I would need nothing for that day, So it's very finely tuned. I had some progesterone cream once, and I had the slightest too much. My head was just like spinning and spinning. So my hormones have got a bloody mind of their own. And so if you had HRT, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have HRT because that's everybody's individual choice.
No, it's hormone replacement treatment. If no one knows what it is.
If I'd had HRT, that would have been an equal amount of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Now, that never have worked for me. That would have sent me doolally because I didn't need the testosterone for a start. It was mainly, and women mainly need the progesterone.
Yeah.
And then I've learned other things about where you can find estrogen in that can give you the hot sweat, like soya, vitamin E. For me, even now, vitamin E would give me really hot feet, and I'd be awake most of the night. So it's all these little things that I've learned over all these years that I can now make the book a bit more meatier, Clint.
Absolutely, I understand that completely. And obviously, looking at you going through this and tackling it yourself, it was through your own will, wasn't it? You thinking, I'm going to do this.
It took a lot of strength to do it because it would be very easy to go to the doctors feeling like I did and say, okay, give me all the tablets you want me to. But I had to stand very firm and say, no, I don't want them.
Yeah.
I don't want them. They're not going to work for me because my body knew they weren't going to work for me. I also knew I had to go through that dark bit to come out the other side. It's not an easy journey.
No, not at all. And obviously, one of the things to remember here that, you know, we're two complex beings. We're a soul being inside, and we're in an earth body, so we're in a vehicle basically. And because we're on this planet and we're earthbound people with a brain that's three-dimensional and looks at its reality, which clashes with our brain at times, within our human body, the body will need something to make it better at times. Do you know what I mean? But saying that, in relation to what you found, is the fact that there is nothing on this planet that in nature there is everything that exists to help us.
Yeah, definitely. Everything.
Yeah. So in relation to how you overcome, if you like, you obviously changed diet and things like that, did you? And stuff like that?
I did. The first thing I did was I had to find somewhere of finding some peace because I couldn't be still. And actually that came from a lady that said to me, Sue, why don't you go? And she knew this lady that was a hypnotherapist, and Ray would take me and I'd have this session, and then she'd send me home with this, like when they had cassettes. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
And it was, and I still got that. And one side is sort of almost like a meditation that it takes you through. The other side is just music, but it has positive subliminal messages in it. And you just play it. You can play it anytime. And it just helps to, you know, just to keep you balanced. And even through this, you know, what we're all going through, sometimes at night I'll just put it on if I'm feeling just a little bit more, little anxious. I'll put it on to whatever. So the hypnotherapist was the person that could take me to a better place, and then I could start to tap into myself and find out what else it was I needed.
Fantastic. But that's brilliant. And now you're working, as the message sent. You're working with people on a one-to-one basis.
I'm just doing little one-to-ones if people are interested, and it's really it just really it depends. I'm just doing well-being card readings with people, and if it depends what comes up, Clint. As you know, we all know we all work in different ways.
Yeah.
It's usually just sort of like a little hour session, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know, you know, if that's what people feel that drawn to that, then it's there for, you know, it's available.
I think your honesty and openness is refreshing, and I do feel in this day and age that this is what people need to be honest, because I do feel that a lot of people fail in reality by wearing too many masks, wearing too many things that hide and cloud themselves inside. They're in relationships and there's no communication, or there's war or battles or whatever. And obviously people make choices in what they do and everything, but it does come down to a clarity within inside ourselves, and we must have that clarity.
Yeah, and we're all, you're like, it's just finding your own it's just finding your own medicine, and it's easy to do if you just stop and find some quiet time. But like
I can tell from the time you were on last time to the time you're on now how different you are. Actually, you're a lot calmer, you're very focused, and there is a serenity about you, if you like. I'm not a tree hugger, but there's nothing wrong with hugging trees, but you have that energy of being very, very assured and very strong in your own self now, which is really good.
I think also, you know, this book, first edition I wrote, it was so many years ago, and now I've been fanning around to get into this one. But I think, this is partly what I'm here to do.
Hmm.
It's part of what I'm here to do. I get it. You know,
It's the beginning of your new journey, really, because this will open up other realms and other areas for you as well, I feel.
Well, yes, I hope. I mean, I do hope so. I'm not very good at that sort of thing. You know, I'm not very good at sort of like saying, "Oh yes, I'm this and I'm that and I'm something else." I'm very strong. Yes, I am very strong.
Yeah.
But I'm also very reserved as well.
I feel you get a lot of referrals, basically, from people that come and see you.
Well, thank you. I mean, it has. I mean, it once I sort of thought, oh no, I think this is what I'm going to do because I'm out of the menopause. I'm way out of the menopause. I'm 62 now, so it sort of gathered up all that knowledge that I had, and then all that's happened sort of since that, and bolted up, and actually just brought everybody together, because it's just not my story. It's other ladies' stories that have wanted to share as well, and other men as well. So, it's been lovely. Anyway, listen, Gemma will be on. Gemma needs to come on, doesn't she?
If people want to get hold of you, Susan, how do they do that?
They can find me through my
Facebook.
It's on Facebook and Instagram. It's at the Healing Table UK.
Okay, great.
And it comes up as a sort of summer meadow with just the healing table on there. Or if they can't find it, they can message.
Yeah, message me. I'll send them straight through to you. Don't worry. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you for having me on.
I mean, you have been brilliant, Susan, and I really thank you for your. I really respect your honesty and integrity of what you're saying, and good luck. And obviously, the new book's going to come out at some point before you go.
When it comes out, I'll.
Well, you'll be on. We'll be promoting it. Don't worry. So I will get you back on. Don't worry about that, because I think there's loads more to talk about with you. But obviously, we've got only a time limit. But it's been absolutely brilliant. Do have a listen to Gemma, because her story is really interesting. And she's coming up next. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Susan.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. What a lovely lady, all the way in Cornwall there. Lovely part of the world, Cornwall. Hello, Matthew John. I didn't say hello to him. Who's joined us as well. We have got coming up next. Quite a remarkable story. And again, I suppose this is a night of bringing a truth out of what we feel within inside ourselves and what's gone on with us to actually share. Like Susan, and we will with Gemma, in relation to the complete failure of the National Health Service, basically, which you will hear in a minute. Gemma is a British female heavyweight boxer. She's also worked with horses for years and years and years. She's a businesswoman, comedian, eater of chocolate, don't we all love that, lover of trance, also works as a psychic on Mediumchat and Psychic Sofa, and manager and owner director of Regal Communication Limited. And she's going to come on and talk about her experiences, because unfortunately Gemma suffers from various medical conditions. She'll go into those and tell you her story, basically, which, one thing we like on here is real truth. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you'll get with Gemma. She will be on at any point now. She will be ringing the phone. And, she also has strong views, strong opinions where we sit today with COVID and everything else as well. And how things are going. So it'd be very interesting to hear what she's got to say. Susan, I could hear from her voice, in the way, the mannerism and everything, the way she was, that she was, from the last time she came on, she's a much more settled, much more place of clarity. Here we are. This should be Gemma. Hello, is that Gemma Brookes?
Yes, it is.
Hello, Gemma Brookes. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful today. I tell you what, I've really enjoyed listening to this show today. What I love about the Inview is it is a platform for fair debate. What I love is the fact that anybody can have an opinion. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's different. we are all free to speak our mind.
Absolutely.
And that's why your show is the highlight of my week. It really,
Wow,
really is.
that's very, very kind. Thank you. And I mean, Susan was great, wasn't she? And she's really looking forward to listening to your story as well.
And it's quite interesting. It ties in quite nicely because a couple of my conditions are hormonal ones, but issues with testosterone. So that'll be quite interesting to get into. I just wanted to say before I start that I am not anti-NHS. I shan't be bashing the NHS. I have total respect for the nurses, healthcare providers, carers.
Absolutely.
It isn't the staff and the NHS itself that is the issue. We're very, very lucky to have a free health service, but it is very much how it's managed and the government as well. 10 years of Tory austerity hasn't helped.
No.
And I just wanted to link in about schools. We've had Boris Johnson banging on about schools are safe, and now all of a sudden they're not safe. And they say about children's mental health, well, what about children's mental health for the last 10 years and underfunding of camps?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I mean, when you've got somebody like Gavin Williamson there, which actually is a frightened rabbit and hides away most of the time and can't really make a decision about anything. And recently, obviously, when Boris said basically, oh, yeah, everyone go to school, and everyone went to school Monday, and then Tuesday he said, no one goes to school now. I mean, you know, the children will not understand this fully because they want to see their friends. You know, in this complete, what can only be called a prison cell state that we live in, really, at this moment in time. And I can understand for reasons why, because of the spread of whatever. If you feel that is not talk about you, but I'm talking about generally, if people buy into the lies that they tell you, because as Susan just said, that, you know, we live in a seasonal flu time, you know, and as you pointed out, seasonal flu is been mixed up in COVID numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that isn't a conspiracy theory. It was actually announced by Health themselves at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
No matter what the politicians say, my personal opinion, I believe that thousands of families mixing on a daily basis right now in the middle of a pandemic isn't safe. Yes, children may not be affected by COVID, but, you know, they're taking it back to people who will
that's
be.
what they said in the beginning, but now they say they do.
And isn't it funny how you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you'll get fined for going out for the slightest thing, but people forget, well, what about Eat Out to help out?
Oh yeah, August time, it was all free. It was lot half price in the restaurants, wasn't it?
Yeah, Eat Out to help spread COVID. And the thing is as well, is at that time, the Eat Out to help out scheme, you were going somewhere like, I don't know, KFC or McDonald's. That scheme, you couldn't go through the drive-through. You had to actually go in and sit in to get that you know, reduction.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit strange, because if it really was to help the businesses, it would have been in any way possible. I feel
that's a massive word here, business, because I would imagine, I mean, however long this goes on for, and I envisage this potentially with what they're going to bring in as well, probably going on to at least Easter, basically.
Yeah, I personally feel that this is going to go on up until next winter. That's what I believe, because on the government's own website it does say, and it actually states, you can see it on gov.co.uk, that the new vaccines, there is not enough evidence yet to show whether we do not yet know if it prevents you contracting COVID-19, and we do not yet know if it stops you spreading it, which beggars the question, even if everybody is vaccinated, how is that going to change anything? Also, we've now got Matt Hancock on the television earlier today saying, oh, it's okay to mix the vaccines, but
that is disgusting.
The World Health Organization have said, actually, it's not good to mix it because
they're going against the World Health Organization because apparently they're supposed to have 2 jabs and they're only getting 1, and a lot of them are up 12 weeks later on. They're wondering when they're going to get the jab, and they're not going to get it for a long time.
And the World Health Organization is saying that it has to be 21 days later. And although they're saying the level of protection may not be as high, it's better than no vaccine at all. But what I think to myself is in that 12 weeks, it's just potential for more of for more mutations to emerge, which probably will.
Yeah, but that happens naturally. I mean, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, every year there is seasonal flu.
Yeah. I mean, we've got over 80,000 dead, and what's really tragic about it is a lot of those could have been preventable if the lockdown had come sooner, if the flights had stopped sooner and the country...
Well, they're still happening.
Yeah, if care home people were not sent home, back to the care home after having a positive test, it's just... And a lot of those figures as well, there are tests that people have had more than one COVID test and it's been classed as those big figures. Yeah. It's just...
I'd like to know the answer to this question. We've been in lockdown, all right, it's only been a short while, but we're all in lockdown, but they're still going up.
Well, this is it. If the schools are closed, nobody's hardly going to work, nobody's mixing, nobody's socialising. How are these things going up? And also, particularly the Oxford vaccine, which is one that I will be having. I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. I haven't got an issue with having a vaccine. If I have the choice, and I will make sure I push for the choice, I will have the Oxford one because I feel I will have no choice, but I will be choosing what goes in my body. That's an old-fashioned style vaccine. But what I'm concerned about, what I'm curious about is the old-fashioned style vaccine. If they are sticking a tiny little bit of something out of COVID in me for my own immune system to fight it, happens a few weeks later, would that mean that I would test positive? Because I have seen a case today, actually on the news, where a nurse that received a vaccine 3 weeks ago has tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
So that begs the question yet again, just how effective are they? So it's all...
Penny Warwick has a comment on here. It says it's an absolute shambles. Thank goodness it's not as deadly as they make out, or we'll all be dead by now.
Well, yeah. I mean, do you remember back when it first started in China, there were people collapsing in the street? Yeah,
but some of that was because they switched 5G on. They put 100,000 towers, 5G towers in, and you need more towers with 5G because it doesn't go through solid buildings.
And for anybody that may try to use those words, that doesn't mean nobody's saying that 5G, causes COVID or anything like that. There have been peer-reviewed scientific papers that it's caused birds to fall out of the sky, and there are legitimate concerns about it, but not all the scientists get listened to. But that is obviously...
Well, of course they don't. 50% of the scientific community are against everything that the other 50% say.
And obviously we get these figures every day when we have a press conference. But what's quite interesting, they're not doing the figures of who has recovered. And that's because I feel that a lot of people that get COVID, some of them, they're actually fully recovered because they suffer from long COVID.
Yeah.
And it's just...
to be honest, I do feel, sorry to butt in, but I do feel that long COVID is people that have been really stretched physically in demanding jobs, I feel, in lots of people, where their immune system is particularly low.
There's probably an element of that, but just to play devil's advocate, I also believe that it also depends how much of a load of it you get, how much of a viral load. Because obviously, if you're in a room with somebody who coughing you has COVID, you're obviously not going to get a stronger dose as if you've snugged somebody who's got COVID. So there is an element.
But they're saying that you might have COVID and you don't know. I mean, for me personally, my own opinion, it's a massive. It's not just a shambles. I feel it's a complete. It's more than a shambles. It's smokescreen. There's something else going on here, because this is so draconian. This is just so bad in our reality. And you go back to the people that fought wars for this country, they'll be turning in their graves at what's going on right now in relation to what they're telling us. I feel personally, my own opinion.
Yeah, and like you said, we don't get the figures of people who are dying, waiting for, having their operations.
Oh, yeah, cancer, heart disease.
I mean, who's getting an organ transplant now?
Yeah, nobody.
Die.
Jason McCusbro says, what's the problem kids not learning at school? So what if they lose some education? They can always leave school at 17 a year later.
Exactly. It's not the end of the world. And what I think is quite interesting, why is there an assumption that children, when they're at home, are not getting an education?
Yeah.
And why is there an assumption that they are behind? They may even be ahead.
Yes. But actually, they're going to learn something different, and they're going to learn something more meaningful at home. But you see, the problem is what I've got with homeschooling is the fact that it's not organised properly, as with everything with this bloody government. Because if they're organised properly, then they would beam lessons on laptops, and everyone would have laptops. They've got so much money floating around. They give them all a laptop. Give everyone a laptop that's at school, and teach them. You teach you in the classroom, and you've got split screens, haven't you?
Yeah, and there's also an element that's never ever taken into account is the fact that children, in my opinion, and teenagers as well, all develop at different rates.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, even the tests that they had to do when they were at school, all of the time banging on tests, hit these figures.
Yeah, SATs and all that, yeah.
Yeah, all the pressure and stress that they're put under as well. But going back to the NHS, it said on the news today, scaremongering, really, really worrying, is they're saying that there's 3 weeks until the NHS is totally overwhelmed. So they make this massive statement, but they don't say what the plan for that is. They don't say, well, yeah, but then what?
It makes a mockery for me, because this is where it all falls over, because there's no truth here and no leadership and no anything going on, because you have got hospitals that they're saying, yes, they're over. You see lines of ambulances. I don't know whether they have bodies in them or not, but they're lining up outside of hospitals when you've got all of the Nightingale hospitals empty.
200, was it million or billion?
200 million pounds the Nightingale hospital cost.
Spent on kitting out the Nightingales. Why are they not being used?
And all they said, we got capacity, and nobody came along. And now they need it. It's not there.
And now they're saying that there isn't the staff, because obviously a lot went back to the EU. But, if they can rush through a COVID Act, they can also rush through temporary legislation to let perhaps those healthcare workers come back over.
Well, you also have to look at the fact that if they rush through also in 5 or 6 months, they create a vaccine for COVID-19. What they've been doing with cancer.
Yeah, and then we've got the army medics, and then obviously we've got all the donations that went to cancer research. Well, is that research stopped? It's just a real shame that there are people personally that I know that have developed cancer in February of this year.
Yeah.
They still haven't been seen, they still haven't been treated, and their cancer will either be at a higher stage or they will not survive because, of COVID.
It almost comes down to the fact that, this government come on the telly and they profess we really care about you. They don't care. They don't care. I'm sorry, but that's what I feel.
I do feel that a lot of doctors and specialists care, and they themselves are frustrated. And also, there's an element, they are human beings. I know personally there are quite a few that are also frightened themselves because they're frightened of contracting it. And I tell you what, I take my hat off to people who work in the NHS, because
I do as well. Yeah,
they do a job I wouldn't be able to do. I don't have the stomach for it. I don't have the nerves for it. And, to risk their lives for what they get paid, nobody could pay me enough to do their job. So before I get into what's happened to me over the last couple of years, I just wanted to emphasise I don't have an issue with the NHS at all.
No, but you don't have an issue with them, obviously, because they do the job that they're paid to do and what they want to do as well. And you can see by what I said earlier on in the muted story of the fact that clap for heroes now, not just nurses and the NHS, clap for heroes. I don't think many people did it.
No, well, certainly not where I live, and it was very muted and very quiet everywhere not because people don't care, but, you know, people in the NHS themselves have said it's not helpful. We'd rather you stay indoors and don't risk spreading it. And it's just, some people would say that it's empty virtue signalling. But, you know, to be fair, you know, it's a nice thing for the kids to do because it, you know, gives them a bit of hope and something to look forward to every week. But it's just, and why change it for Clap for Heroes? It's very sort of, it makes it awkward. Well, if you don't do it, then, you know, you don't care about those heroes. And that's not the case at all. I do think it's something that was wonderful to begin with, but has just become
It's died a death.
Virtue signalling.
Yeah.
When really the best thing that you could do is vote a party in that will, you know, not cut.
Yeah, vote a party in that cares. And to be honest, I think they should all sack themselves in Parliament because Keir Starmer is not he is not a Prime Minister in waiting, I can tell you.
If I thought that I could make a difference, then I would be a politician.
Yeah.
But, and you'd make a great one, because I think to myself, do these people not go into this because they want to make people's lives better? They want to help run the country better.
That is the intention. But when they get in there, they have something called a whip, and they have to toe a line, and they have to agree with what the party wants to do. So then it becomes draconian. Then it becomes something that's controlled, which means that your opinion then gets lost in the mist.
And then we've obviously got the expenses scandal, and it's just things like, well, apparently they don't just rent a second home.
No, they don't.
They get a second mortgage.
Yeah.
Or when they're no longer an MP, what happens to that home that we've paid the mortgage on? Do they get to keep that second home?
And bearing in mind they're getting 82 grand a year to be an MP.
And a lot of already multimillionaires or come from incredibly, you know, rich.
They're very rich and privileged people. So rich and privileged, so you get people like David Cameron that is so, you know, so out of touch with reality that he goes and burns £50 notes in front of a tramp on the street and sticks his private bits in pigs' heads.
And that was sort of that was their little school ritual, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's I'm sorry, but it's wrong.
And then we have, obviously, and here's a case, I actually saw this on the BBC and I was cheering when this lady pulled him up about it. Ian Duncan Smith, multi-millionaire, somebody that hammered the disabled, hammered the poor, hammered the unemployed, hammered the parents, and he claimed regularly a £23 English breakfast on his expenses.
Yeah.
You know, and he has the audacity to call these people scroungers.
I know. But they don't. These Tories are renowned. They don't care. But the Labour Party, I do believe, with the person that stands there, is a Tory blue person in Labour clothes.
There is no opposition.
No, there isn't. There's no one banging a fist on the table. I know it's difficult. I know it's sensitive and all sorts. But, you know, you want somebody with some gusto. I mean, Boris is a flounderer. Boris does not look at attention to detail. It's well known he doesn't. And
I think the job has turned out harder for Boris than expected it to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at him, it's aged him, definitely. And if you look at some of them, it's not even in there.
And then we have Tony Blair to stick his nose into things.
Yeah, well, Tony Blair, who finds any opportunity to get in the limelight because he has his own Tony Blair Institute or whatever, doesn't he? Like Bill Gates has an institute and all sorts, siphoning money off here, there, and everywhere. Tony Blair wanted to be the president of Europe. That's what he wanted. That was the job he wanted. But obviously, with the Iraq War, which was absolutely phony, and had lots of blood on the skins, including the guy the scientist that was murdered out in the woods. Lovely guy.
Weapons of mass destruction. We were 40 minutes away from oblivion.
Yeah.
That wasn't true.
No.
And nobody's been held to account to it.
No, they haven't. None of them at all. Penny Warwick has come back with a comment here and says, we did okay in the old days with half the pressures of the current curriculum. And I would add that half the pressure of the current curriculum, we live in a different age as well to when I'm sure you went to school, Penny, and me, and yourself, Gemma, where we didn't have internet. We didn't have all busy lives and all sorts. But she does say, teach them life skills far more valuable. And I think one of the most important factors about teaching at home is you're asking parents. Now, you're asking parents, I'm not saying everyone, but there will be a percentage, quite a big percentage, that are not even, they're not able to do that. I don't mean that because they're thick.
No, or they're having to work full time from home.
Yeah.
And try and, teach their kids as well when they're not teachers. And some children, they do behave for strangers better than their own parents.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So it's really, really difficult. It's like the council tax. They've announced that it's going up by 5% in England for everybody that is struggling. However, Dominic Cummins' father-in-law allegedly didn't declare a building on his property that he had built, a great big house, but he managed to have it all backdated 2 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't fined, there was no penalty, and his council tax on that massive property over the last 2 years has been totally wiped out. So he's got away with having to pay absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but it's Dominic Cummins, isn't it? Dominic Cummins, who's a horrible, nasty weasel, basically. It's all about where he sat. He got a £45,000 pay rise before he left.
And technically, the NHS shouldn't be underfunded now, because do you remember what was written on the side of the bus with the whole EU debate?
I do remember that, and that's very well done remembering that. And that was a complete lie by Boris Johnson when that was wrote on that bus.
Yeah, there should be, 300 million available to the NHS every week. So, we shouldn't have an issue anymore. But
no, and we shouldn't. And I know it's something you feel very strong about, is the fact that we should not have any shortage of beds. We should not have any shortage of any PPE, ventilators, or anything else they need, basically.
We've got, like I said, we've got army medics as well. But
yeah, but that's a worrying factor. The army are now going to come in and do all this. Are we stepping into a different realm here?
Why did he have to be in full army uniform on the press conference?
Yeah, well, they do, don't they?
Well, somebody made me laugh because they said it's a bit like, parents' evening when the PE teacher's got his tracksuit on.
Yeah. Are you going to see more of that?
But it's like this whole 3 weeks 3 weeks until the NHS is overwhelmed. And like I say, then what? Then what's going to happen? Are people, if they urgently need an ambulance, is one not going to be sent?
Yeah.
Not going to be any beds? What if you have a car crash? What if you have a stroke or a heart attack? There's one thing that's not been spoken about is the number of nurses, doctors, everybody that's getting COVID, and a lot of them are dying. Not all of them are trained to use these ventilators. So then what? What if?
Well, there is, and it runs into your story. Really, there is also an enormous amount of people, consultants and doctors and nurses, that only work in certain fields: gynecology, hips, eyes, all manner of different things. Do you know what I mean? They're probably not doing anything right now. I'm not saying they aren't, but there is a lot on furlough.
Yes. And then it comes to my story. Now,
can I just, before you start your story, Susan Horwell said, instead of clapping, she says, I lit a candle and sent light to the planet. That's a good idea. Don't burn your house down though, Susan. Yeah, your story is very poignant, and to reiterate what you said, this is not having to go at the NHS itself, but actually in a way it is, because the NHS is a failure. I've said that already on the show. It's failed before it started, really, and it's been run down like the police force. Run down, cut back.
Yeah.
And then when you need it, they throw as much money as possible. It's bad foresight. This is not, as you say, it's not just this government, it's many successive governments, really. And yes, it's free at the point of use, but if you can use it. Now, your story is pretty horrendous, to be honest. And I'll let you tell your story, and for the people listening and watching.
Thank you very much. Well, I've always been a very honest and open person. Some people would say, is it washing your dirty laundry in public? But I don't see it that way, because a lot of the conditions that I have are very rare. And I am actually, believe it or not, although I was a former athlete, I'm still trying to be one. I am disabled now because of the illnesses and the diseases that I have. And if I don't try and do something with the knowledge that I have or with myself, I'll be one of those people that will just sit there and wait for my own death to arrive. So if me speaking out about the problems that I have raises awareness for diseases and illnesses that some people have never even heard of before, or makes them go and get checked out, or makes them go and raise money for things, or even somebody else who's suffering from the same thing.
Or and educate people.
Oh,
basically.
yes, listens to this and thinks, well, if this person can keep putting one foot in the front of the other, then so can I. I don't have an issue speaking publicly at all. And one good thing about being a very honest person all of the time, even if you become, well known in the public eye, is nobody's got anything on you, because, you spoke your truth and you've told the truth. So, my first illness started when I was a teenager. I had terrible, terrible migraines every single day, and nobody could find out why. And I gained massive amounts of weight in the space of a year. And when we say massive amounts of weight, we're talking about 12 stone in a year. That is how terrible it was. At that time, at that doctor's surgery at that time, I had a blood test and I found out that one of my hormones, my prolactin, was very, very high. It was through the roof. And I was referred to an excellent endocrinologist who at first thought that I had something called Cushing's disease or Cushing's syndrome, which is quite rare, and it's caused by a pituitary tumour in your brain. It is a non-cancerous brain tumour, but it causes problems because it's in your pituitary gland. That gland secretes hormones all through your body, regulates things, and when one hormone is out of whack, a lot of them are out of whack. And I was diagnosed with a prolactinoma. Unfortunately, when you have endocrine and hormone issues, because people presume when they see an incredibly overweight person, there is always an assumption, that person must just be greedy, there might be a gamut. It doesn't occur to them that they might have a medical problem. It doesn't occur to them that there might be medications that they're on that make that happen, make them look that way. It doesn't occur to them that somebody might have an underactive thyroid or, something like that. And the symptoms of Cushing syndrome are a rounded, swollen, moon face, they call it, like a bump on the back of the neck, an extended abdomen, bruising, stretch marks, just terrible. It's a horrible thing, terrible migraines, like I say. So this was the first thing that was wrong with me. And thankfully, I was put on a medication to sort it all out. Got completely back to normal, was absolutely fine. Got back to normal weight, everything was great. Then I had a child, but before I had my daughter, I was I was nearly 3 weeks overdue. Didn't go into labour at all because my hormones weren't working. I had a cesarean, had an enormous baby, nearly died on the operating table. And it was then, after I had my child, that all of my other conditions appeared all at once. The first one that I developed was called, and this is a really hard one to spell, hidradenitis suppurativa. The only people who can spell it are those who have got it or those who treat it. It's quite a rare auto-inflammatory disease where your own immune system attacks your own glands in your body. And it's normally on your breast, in your armpits, it can be in your groin, that area, and it produces terrible abscesses all of the time. It causes fever, and they are non-stop all of the time. Terrible abscesses. You have to have antibiotics all the time. They don't know what causes it. They don't know how to treat it. It's just something that you have to live with. And there are 3 stages to it: early stage 1, 2, and 3. I'm currently stage 2. It's something that I have. I'll always have. It's never going to go away. And when you have one autoimmune disease, you tend to have a couple of them. And I also have celiac disease, which was only recently diagnosed. And I also have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And what this means is your body, all hormonal yet again, produces too many androgens, which are testosterone male hormones, which means as a woman, you produce too much testosterone as normal. You have a lower voice, which, as you can hear, it's excess hair, irregular periods. Sometimes they stop, or sometimes you don't stop bleeding at all. Causes weight gain yet again, causes your body to be more muscular and stronger. And obviously 10 years ago when I was involved in high level sport, that was great, because against all my opponents in all of the sports that I had a really strong sporting advantage, because I had 3 times higher than normal levels of testosterone than a normal woman would have.
Yeah.
So it was great then, but when it's left unchecked over a long period of time, that's when it starts to affect your health. That's when it starts to affect your heart, your blood pressure, and everything, because everything's out of whack. And also, I had an awful lot of bangs on the head with the horses, and also boxing as well, at the level that I was at. So I'm quite conscious of that. And, you know, in hindsight, perhaps boxing wasn't the best sport to do when you have got a pituitary tumour in the brain. But polycystic ovarian syndrome, what it means really is when your ovaries every month release an egg, sometimes it doesn't get released. Sometimes one doesn't get released at all, or sometimes it gets stuck on your ovary and then it starts to grow and grow and grow. Sometimes they bang and explode and it's terrible. Sometimes they don't at all. Sometimes they go absolutely massive and have to be surgically removed. It's not nice at all. And
no, I can imagine it's not.
And that secretes hormones as well, and it's just a total nightmare. And I currently have a very large cyst on one of my ovaries. I've also, like I say, got this pituitary tumour, and I have celiac disease, and I also have endometriosis. And this is a disease, another disease, that isn't talked about very often, because there's not a lot of awareness about it. That's because women don't like to talk about it, and it's very hard to treat. And, you know, people just don't talk about it, but it's very debilitating. Now, it's a little bit of a science lesson for you. When a woman has a period, your endometrium is the lining of your womb, and obviously, when an egg and a sperm is fertilised and it travels down into your womb, that's what it attaches to for your child to grow. But when you have polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis at the same time, it doesn't come out, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And when it gets past a certain thickness, that's when it can kind of turn cancerous and it's awful. But the terrible thing about endometriosis is, one of the big things with it is, as well as the lining of your womb doing that, cells in your body make endometrial tissue grow in other parts of your body. So that could be in your stomach, your body cavity itself, your bowels, everywhere. Your brain, it can grow outside of your body. And the reason that is awful for somebody with endometriosis is it still grows and tries to shed every month. And obviously, if you've got that endometrial tissue in your body cavity, it obviously can't get out anywhere. So it stays in there and causes all kinds of trouble and scarring and sticks to all your organs and everything, and it's terrible. And it can affect fertility as well in certain people. So we've got that going on, and with being a celiac as well. I've been a celiac for a very long time, but it wasn't diagnosed for many, many years because the blood test wasn't done, because nobody thought to do one. I was having these terrible migraines, and it was put down to, oh, well, you know, you've got this problem in your head. obviously with a pituitary tumour, and obviously if you have bowel problems, they just presumed it was, you know, all your other reproductive problems. It didn't occur to anybody that I had celiac disease. And what it is some people think when you go, oh, I can't eat gluten, some people make a bit of a joke of it. They think that it's a lifestyle choice. And there is something called a gluten intolerance. But when you are a full-blown celiac, you have a terrible allergic reaction whenever you ingest the tiniest amount. And it is in absolutely everything. And over time, when you digest a little bit of gluten, which is in wheat and things like that, it gets into your bloodstream and your own immune system gets mixed up and thinks that it is an invader and attacks it and attacks your own tissues and it can attack your nerves, your brain and everything, and it's just terrible. And obviously on a personal level, because you know me, you have seen what I'm like when I'm terribly ill when this happens. I'm bedridden for days, as you know. But the reason that it's quite dangerous is over time, if it's not treated and monitored or diagnosed, and it can turn into something called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is actually a cancer of your immune system. And the way to diagnose how bad it is, you have to have an endoscope in your stomach, which is where they put a camera down, to see how badly damaged your intestines are. Because with celiac disease, because your own immune system attacks the villi in your intestines, it basically wears them down to nothing. So you can't digest your food properly, so you end up vitamin and mineral deficient as well, and it's just awful. So I was supposed to have an endoscope. So I was eventually referred to a gastroenterologist. It took 8 months for that referral to come after a private blood test, because I knew I still wasn't well and I still wasn't right, so I actually paid myself to be tested for everything.
That's terrible, isn't it?
The appointment, well, it gets worse. The appointment was a telephone appointment. Gastroenterologist was wonderful. He said, yes, your blood test, you've got the antibodies, so we know you're a celiac. Just stop eating gluten. And I said, well, hang on a bit. You know, don't you need to do an endoscope? He said, well, yeah. He says, but we know you're a celiac. I said, but don't you need to see how badly damaged my intestines are? He said, pre-COVID, yeah, but we can't do that because of COVID. I said, okay. So how do you know how badly damaged my intestines are? How do you know that I don't have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or if I'm going to get it? And he just basically said, wait for your next appointment. This was a year ago. I've heard nothing since. And I'm still waiting.
This is where we're coming to, is the point that it gets worse. The point that you're making is the fact that you have all these things, which is terrible. And can I just say that there's somebody watching, listening to the show tonight called Me Not So Basic. It says, oh my God, sounds awful what you're going through, and is sending you massive virtual hugs to a special lady.
Thank you very much. But one of the things that I'm most worried about, we'll get to the gynecology bit in a bit, but one of the things that I do have is polycystic ovarian syndrome can cause something called idiopathic intracranial pressure, which is what I currently have. And for many years, the doctors wouldn't believe me because I can hear my heartbeat in my ears all of the time, and I can hear fluid running on the back of my head and neck, which is my own spinal fluid. And the doctors wouldn't take me seriously. And I said, I can hear this is not in my head. I went to have a routine eye exam, and I found out that my optic nerves were swollen, and I was sent straight to the eye hospital in Birmingham, where I was admitted immediately. I had to have a lumbar puncture to reduce the fluid. And I was told that if this isn't monitored and this optic nerve swells anymore, I will go blind, and there is nothing that they can do about it. It's not my eyes that are damaged, it is my brain. Yeah. And I've got to have an appointment every 12 weeks, every 3 months, with the specialist at the eye hospital to check how much pressure there is on these nerves. if the pressure's going down and I need the levels of fluid in and around my skull and my head checked all of the time. I was admitted into hospital in June 2020. I was told this appointment would come. I'm still waiting. So it's been 7 months. So it is a ticking time bomb.
Well, this highlights exactly what I said before. That I mean, the very specialised arenas of your different diseases you have, the same as cancer, same as all the other things. It stopped, hasn't it?
Yeah. One of the drugs that I'm on for hidradenitis suppurativa, an antibiotic that I have to take every single day, as well as the creams and everything else, actually increases idiopathic intracranial pressure. So that in itself is also a massive warning sign. But it's the fact that, like this pituitary tumour, I'm on a special drug for that. And I had to fight for that drug. It's called Pugilist. It's a very expensive drug. And for 4 years, at a previous doctor's surgery, I was taken off that drug because I was told by that particular practice that the drug was too expensive, you can't have it. And that proved disastrous for me because over those 4 years of not having that drug, it grew again because this drug shrinks it. It grew again and my problems have come back even worse. So thankfully, I'm now under the same endocrinologist, but unfortunately, I haven't seen him for the last 2 years.
Bloody
So
hell.
I'm under this endocrinologist. I'm on a drug where I'm supposed to have my blood pressure taken every 3 months because it can affect your heart. And I've been on this drug for 2 years and I've not been able to see the specialist because the appointment was cancelled. First of all, because he was ill, and then it was rearranged again, and then it was cancelled again because of COVID. And I'm due to see him in March, and I've been told that it's going to be cancelled yet again because of such a backlog.
Well, my question is that why are these all being cancelled when they're obviously very important appointments that they must adhere to?
Because what they're saying is because of COVID, you cannot come into the hospital and have the treatment that you need because of COVID.
Yeah, but doesn't this absolutely sound of a complete shambolic crowd that actually are running this health service, and the health service itself, in a way? I'm not talking about the people, but I'm talking about the people that run it.
Yeah.
Because Nightingale hospitals could easily take the slack of that, or some hospitals could.
Yeah. And then we get to the going back to the endometriosis. The last time that I saw my gynecologist was almost 2 years ago, and what was quite worrying is the last time that I had a scan, the lining of my womb was 9 millimeters thick. Once it's 10 millimeters thick, that is when you get problems. This is when you can get endometrial cancer. And so it was 9 millimeters thick 2 years ago. So how thick is it now? And is that related to the problems that I'm now having, which is bleeding for months on end or not at all, and everything's just all over the place, but I can't get in to be seen. The last time I saw a gynecologist, I've got a cyst growing and it is currently 3 inches on my left ovary. And that was 2 years ago. They said that once it gets to 4, they need to remove it, they need to operate on it. But these appointments, they keep getting cancelled.
Because of COVID.
Yeah. Another thing, last thing, is I also have tachycardia. Some of it is caused by stress. Some of it is caused by me drinking 2 Red Bulls a day for the last 15 years, not understanding how dangerous they were, drinking it because I was tired, and I do believe that I have damaged my heart. Tachycardia is when your heart beats too fast, even at rest, and mine is currently well over 100, and it should be between 50 and 60. So I am a heart attack and a stroke waiting to happen. This is why I work from home and I try really hard to have a quieter life and reduce stress. Because if I was to have a heart attack or a stroke now, I would be snookered as far as having an ambulance, getting treated because of the issues with COVID. And also, they said on the news a couple of days ago, if you're somebody with pre-existing conditions and comorbidities, which technically I have, when they have to do triage, which is just a really posh word for choosing who lives and dies, I will not be treated. I will not get treatment.
That is disgusting.
And there are a lot of people that have do not resuscitates put on them. So all of this is pretty awful as well, because 5 months ago, all of my bones started to hurt, and a blood test came back saying that I had rheumatoid arthritis. So I also need to see a rheumatologist, but I haven't had that appointment yet. And if I'm not treated, I will end up with terribly cold bones, and it'll just be awful. And all of the above is terrible. My physiotherapy has been cancelled as well because I've got a neck injury. But there are people that have had terrible car crashes and their physiotherapy has been stopped. You've got people who've had accidents and need physiotherapy for other things, or recovering from operations, and that's been cancelled. And you think to yourself, all of the above that I've just told you is awful, but, at least it's not cancer. There are people out there far worse than me.
No, I understand that. But, I really thank you for your honesty in relation to what you've been through. And realistically, is to give an overview of, you're one person, you have all these things, and I'm really sorry you have all these things.
Yeah.
But it is the shambolicness that you are one person and you're one of thousands right now that are not being seen at all for your normal, not COVID, but normal ailments and diseases.
Yeah.
Which is so wrong.
Well, look about women. Every few years, most women have to have a smear test to check that they don't have cervical cancer.
Yeah.
Those have been cancelled, and they haven't been able to have smear tests, so there are women developing cervical cancer because they've got abnormal cells and it's not being spotted in time. You've got people, their dental treatment is being cancelled, so you've got people with rotten teeth, and if you've got gingivitis for a long period of time, that can damage your heart as well, and it's just really, really terrible.
It just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Because
I do feel the death figures from, in the end, when all of this is over, the real death toll,
the real pandemic is everyone that hasn't got COVID virus.
Yeah. And you look at other countries like America that you have to have insurance, and they won't treat you, and we're very, very lucky to have the NHS.
Well, we are, but we haven't got it, have we?
Well, yeah. So it's just awful. So that's the situation. And even though I have all these problems, I still try and be athletic to the best that I can. I have good days and I have bad days.
Yeah, of course.
Another issue as well is all of the above that I've told you is not visible. So
it's all invisible. So nobody can see that you actually got anything wrong with you at all.
Classed as a hidden disability.
Yeah.
So on another show, it would be really nice to talk about, how disabled people are treated by society and the government. Because there are a few things there that I could tell you.
The disabled community, homeless and travellers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's been a pleasure, and
there is some comments here before we still got a few minutes. We got me not so basic. Said it's a total shambles. I'm sorry that we live in such a dysfunctional society. Your basic rights are being totally ignored, and they say it's wrong on all levels. Susan Horwell says, bless you, Gemma, for telling your story. A very brave lady. I know you won't feel like a brave lady, but it's brave to come on and talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because what it's highlighting is the complete insignificance of what we are right now in this reality, with whatever needs we need to be better or get better. Do you know what I mean? What health and well-being are you going through at the moment? None whatsoever, because all your appointments are cancelled.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm basically working very hard, sat at home, with no company at all, worrying about if there's food shortages, how am I going to get something that doesn't have gluten, and when it's going to end. And it's very, even for somebody like myself who's very determined, strong-minded and positive, it is proving difficult because I can see no end to this. If I thought that everybody having the vaccine would mean that by the end of this year we've eradicated it and everything would get back to normal, that'd be wonderful, and I'd have the patience to wait until then. But I don't feel that, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel when you have the government turning around saying we don't have any evidence as to whether it'll stop you getting it or if it'll stop you spreading it.
I think one of the, yeah, you're right, because I think one of the problems with it is the fact that it's not even been tested properly, has it?
Yeah, and how many people with pre-existing conditions or on certain medications or people that have allergies have been tested?
Yeah.
And that's where the concern is, because it's all very well the government putting on their website, wow, if you have this and it paralyses you, disables you permanently for life, oh, well, there's no compensation and there's no comeback because this vaccine is, completely protected against any criticism or comeback whatsoever. That's fair enough, but, well, it's a worry, but who's got to deal with the aftermath of when that happens?
Yeah, I agree. I completely and utterly agree. And I mean, the complete fear porn that we have on all television, with the vaccine being the element that is going to save the planet, basically. And I do feel we have to be very, very careful when we're saying things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and it's like, absolutely. And then when you have Matt Hancock saying, we are considering entering support bubbles. Now, if you're somebody who is already, then your mental health is not very good, or you don't have any support of any kind off anybody, or even if you're like elderly and you're coming towards the end of your life, or perhaps you're a widow or something living on your own. I mean, how terrifying and petrifying to be told that on the news that Matt Hancock is considering ending support bubbles, but not telling you why or what you're meant to do in the meantime. It's this perpetual worry of things dangling over your head that I think is very, very cruel for the most vulnerable in society.
Yeah.
And it's all very well, the MPs, they've got millions behind them, so no matter what crisis they face in life, they're sorted. But what about everybody else? I
agree. I completely agree. I completely agree with you.
So here endeth today's sermon.
Well, in relation to what you've been through and what you're going through, it is absolutely horrendous, and I'm really sorry how badly that the NHS, not the NHS people that work in it, but the people that are running it, that seem to needlessly right now discriminate against everyone that's got anything else wrong with them. There's a post there I just want to read out and get your comments on, which is it's on Trudy Miller's wall on Facebook. It says, this was all planned. The first stage, they needed us to get addicted to our phones. The second stage was on the body devices, such as smartwatches. The third stage is to go inside the body via microchipping. They're already doing this in Sweden, where they have parties every time someone gets microchipped. The final stage is they want to upload our consciousness to a cloud, which they need 5 to the G for. They want us to accept AI, and that's why we've got Alexis and Alexia, or whatever it's called, and Cirrus in our homes, and they want us to merge machines.
Yeah.
And they will use people's ego and sell it to you as to you will be superhuman, and you won't be superhuman, you will be subhuman under their control. Humanity is at crossroads. The C19 vaccine starts with a V, changes your DNA, which means you no longer be your creator. You're going down a path where you will lose what it means to be human.
Well, you read that, and somebody new to all of this, and at the start of their journey would think, nah, why would they want to do that? But as I told you last week, I regularly watch a show called The Joe Rogan Show on YouTube, and they had Elon Musk as a guest. And Elon Musk himself said the end goal is merging man with machine, because they're trying to find the key to, what's it called when you live forever?
It is very much about finding it. Well, to put no finer point on it.
The word.
Yeah, well, it's a mortality state, isn't it?
So it's just, it's dark times, and then obviously if you're religious.
But I wonder if Elon Musk is even human. I think he's from the future.
It makes, well, when you hear him talk, some of the things he says and the position that he puts his eyes in as he speaks, because obviously I've studied, body language and, behaviour of humans as well as equines, and it's, when he talks and the position that he puts his eyes in, it does look like he's talking from memory, so it's very interesting. I mean, people say, if there are aliens in UFOs, well, what if we are actually the aliens, and that's just what humans look like?
Well, on Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about in the paranormal bit. I'm going to be bringing in on Wednesdays, which only for about half an hour. I'm going to be talking about the UNUSA organization. Now, nobody knows what they are, but it's the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs.
Right. Well, as I said last week, why would they plough trillions into things like that if there wasn't anything for them to do?
Precisely. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I look forward to that show. So I shall.
Well, you've been amazing tonight, and thank you for your honesty, and I completely respect everything you said, and it's really good to have you on, and I hope it just opens people's eyes out there in relation to what really is going on that isn't going on, that should be going on, basically.
Yeah, like for example, just one last thing that I wanted to say, because this will really make a difference. Like when you see people parked in disabled spaces with disabled badges, and they get out of the car, people do make judgments and people make comments, and what I would turn around to people and say is, not all disabilities are visible.
No.
They might be having a good day, and they have, Crohn's disease, and they look perfectly fine, but they need to be near a toilet. They might have post-traumatic stress disorder, and they need to park at the front of the shop to get out of there quickly if they have a panic attack. You just don't know what's going on in people's lives. Every single person that you speak to, every single person on this planet is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. So it's that whole adage, isn't it?
All of us have something.
Just be kind. Absolutely.
I agree. You've been amazing, Gemma. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And we will get you on in a few weeks' time again, see how you're getting on, and see if you've been seen above all.
Right. Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of the show.
Well, thank you very much, and we will speak soon.
All right. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye. What an amazing lady! What a horror story, which really is to outline the failure, not of the NHS itself, because as Gemma says, they're all working very hard and they're all doing a diligent job, but the mechanics behind it, the people that run this, from the government downwards, the quangos, the middle management, what do we do today in relation to what do we do with these patients that we don't see? Because this is the big, huge fallout that's coming from this pandemic. And by the way, if you don't know what pandemic means, it actually means epidemic. It's another word for epidemic. So, they've got it wrong. They've got it wrong because they haven't looked at this in a functional way. They've looked at it dysfunctionally. They've looked at it in one narrow band vision, which is COVID. and forgot all about all of the other people that exist around that have all sorts of different ailments and everything else. We have our last guest tonight on the phone now, and this is the Monster Hunter. Now, the last time we spoke to the Monster Hunter, he was in a wood somewhere looking for a Bigfoot, but right now he's got his kilt on because I do believe he's talking to us live from the Loch Ness.
Good evening, young sir.
Hello, how are you? Are you in Scotland?
Jack Munster, Monster Hunter, is in Scotland. Absolutely.
Are you wearing your kilt, clan?
No. I don't wear a kilt.
Oh, right. Okay.
No,
So,
I refuse.
where are you on a boat right now, or are you standing on the side of the shore?
No, I'm in a cabin on the shore. I'm having a few tinnies with one or two of the local inhabitants.
Okay. And how long have you been up there? How long did it take you to get to Loch Ness? And bearing in mind, you know, we're supposed to be in restrictions, so you're not supposed to be there really, but I suppose you might have an exemption as you're a monster hunter.
I've been up here for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I just managed to miss it.
Yeah. So as been up there 2 weeks, what have you found? Because obviously the Loch Ness Monster is, a lot of people say it's fable and all sorts. There was a very famous picture that was documented many years ago. I can't remember the exact years, but it's some years ago now, with him with his head poking out the water. And there has been so many people on boats out there trying to trawl the bottom of Loch Ness and can never reach it because it's so deep.
Well, it is very deep, and there's various caverns down there as well.
Really?
Oh yes.
Wow.
I managed to find one.
You managed to find what? You actually went right down into a cavern.
Well, it all started about a week ago. Well, I managed to find a boat and a skipper. It didn't, excuse me, it didn't speak an awful lot. All he would say was, "Aye, laddie." You know, pretty much he said from the beginning.
Aye, laddie.
Yeah, he said, "You're speaking to Captain Jimmy McTavish."
Captain Jimmy McTavish.
Yeah. So I said, "Okay, when do we set sail?" And he said, "Well, we go first light in the morning."
Okay.
So I thought, well, fair enough. Anyway, we got out there, been out of the water, I suppose, for about half an hour. Took about half an hour to get to where he said was a reasonable place. So I tied a bottle of Teacher's whiskey at the end of my line and chucked it overboard.
A bottle of Teacher's whiskey?
Yeah.
Wow.
And about 30 seconds later, it came flying back out of the water over my head and over the boat.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
He obviously doesn't like,
spat
whatever's
it
down
out.
there doesn't like Teachers.
Was the bottle still intact?
So I put a bottle of, I put a bottle of another famous brand on there, which was obviously more to whatever was down there's liking, because it came back up 30 minutes later and empty, floating to the top along with a few other large bubbles.
Wow. And what was that? What was that bottle that was empty?
Oh, that was a bottle of Glenfiddich.
Right.
So obviously to their whatever.
More to their palate.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, Captain Jimmy and I, we suited up and we headed into the loch.
Yeah.
And we swam down about 30 or 40 feet, and it was dark and cold.
Did you have a torch on that?
Sorry?
Did you have a torch on you?
No.
Oh.
We've got that.
Well, mind you, you can get torches that work underwater, can't you?
Yeah, but we had two up on the boat, but forgot it. Anyway, we wouldn't have had room.
Right.
Because I took 3 or 4 bottles of Glenfiddich down with me and a rather large haggis.
Right.
So we started swimming further and further down, and strangely enough, I could see this sort of light in the distance. So we started swimming over towards it, and it was like a cavern, a cave underwater. So we swam into it.
How far down was this in the loch?
I can't say. I can't say.
Oh, you can't say. It's top secret.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Anyway, we swam a little bit further into this cavern, and the water appeared to get shallower and shallower and shallower.
Really? So the water started to go, basically.
Well, yes, and then we could see the source of this light, and it was this big cavern, and it was almost like a beach we sort of got up and walked on, and then there was this horrible screeching noise.
Right.
Yeah, Jimmy McTavish had stood on a broken shell.
Oh. And that he was screaming.
Yeah. Oh God, and it echoed. It really did.
He went down with you.
But the light. Yeah, he came down with me. And looking around, you could see where the light source was coming from. Some like fluorescent rocks, must have been sulfur or something like that on these rocks, and that was giving a light. So
you must have been down quite a way.
Oh yes, well, you know, several hundred meters. That's all I'm going to say. And then all of a sudden, I could see some movement in one of the. There were several little sort of pocket caves that were around to the right-hand side of this cavern.
Right.
And we saw this creature come walking out. And it just started walking towards us.
Walking?
And I looked
on
Jimmy.
2 legs or 4 legs? Or?
Well, he couldn't see because it was about 100 yards away.
Right.
But when it got closer, we just froze. We were, you know, fear. We just froze. You know what it's like when you see something that's frightening. You say you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but you can't. You couldn't run. Every muscle in your body froze. And then we were face to face with about 5'10", like a lizard man.
A lizard man. Wow. So did it have like a male head?
Well, he had a sort of like a lizard head and a male torso, and lizard-like legs,
right,
and webbed feet. And he had like a staggered, you know, like a Stegosaurus type thing on the back.
So he could be almost like a lost generation of dinosaur.
Well, he could be, well, dare I say it, an experiment of some kind.
Right, okay, that's
in
interesting.
In the very distant past. Anyway, we were shocked again. Then he looked at us, both of us, straight at us, one after the other, and said, "Welcome to my abode."
He said, well, he actually spoke to you in English.
Yes, I couldn't believe it.
Welcome to my abode. Gemma says it sounds like it could be Mike Hancock.
It could be what, sorry?
It could be Mike Hancock in disguise.
No. No. He goes to the depths of a lot of things, and he ought to go to the depths.
Yeah, he should.
But he hasn't gone to this depth. No.
But I mean, do you think this lizard-type creature that says "Welcome to your abode"? Do you think it's related to any of the royal family that are apparently lizards?
Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, we followed him, and he took us into this sort of cavern. And we sat down at like a stone sort of table. And
it was all very civilized.
Well, it would appear so. Just sat on this rock and this slab on which was rested on 4 other rocks. I mean,
was it wet in there? It must have been wet in there, is it, or not? Or is it dry?
No, it was dry here.
Oh,
it was dry here. Anyway, so we put the bottle of scotch on the table thing there, and put the haggis on there, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, haggis, that's my favourite," he said.
I bet he hadn't had haggis for millions of years.
Ah, but this is what I'm going to come to a bit later, you see. out of the corner of my eye, I could see movement. And then there was another one.
All right. Was that
James
his wife?
I think it was. I think, yeah, it was rather plainly obvious. It was either a wife or a daughter.
Right.
And they sat down with us and they started talking about nothing, really. I couldn't understand it, you know.
What, their language changed?
No, it was just gibberish, just talking about nothing. You know,
Right.
all sorts of weird fangled things.
Sounds like
But in English, but it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Then I said to him, well, sorry to interrupt you. And then they started speaking properly.
Okay.
Strange. And it turns out, I mean, after we've had a few scotches and had a bit of haggis, but what has been seen on top, there's been them, or their predecessors as well, swimming around just underneath the surface at a certain place. So they go nearly to the shore because there used to be how can I put it? An old man. He was an old man anyway, obviously, when he died. But there was a man. It was a hermit there,
Right.
and he used to bring the occasional bottle of whiskey and haggis, and he used to row out and then just drop it in with some stones so it sunk near the bottom. And he used to row back. So he basically fed them, you know, occasionally.
Right.
And what you see them, this is several years ago, and you see them on top every now and then. We did. You won't see them again, but every now and then you did, because they were looking for him, because he hadn't dropped any off for some time. So you could imagine what it was like when they saw what I dropped overboard.
Well, yeah, they didn't like what you dropped over first time, though, but they liked the Glenfiddich.
Well, yes, yeah.
So
I
they
didn't
had
like the
taste.
teachers because they were looking for something. So anyway, so yes, and they were telling me their stories and how long they'd been there
And how long had they been
everything
there?
else. Well, their family, they said, had been there for several million years.
Wow. And they have to come to the surface because they need air, don't they?
Well, they don't need to there, you see, because there is air there.
Oh, right. There is air there.
It comes down from it. See, when they had the last earthquake several million years ago up there, it opened up, and that's what formed the lock, because they were living underground, you see, in the inner earth, as it were.
Right.
And they got trapped. You see, when the earthquake happened, several other things happened. Plates started moving, obviously, like they do with earthquakes, and they got trapped up there. There was like 2 or 3 families, and they got trapped. So they obviously interbred that over the years. And this is what we have now.
Wow. And
So,
were they pleased? Were they pleased to see it? Didn't want to eat you or anything then?
I mean, there's a Loch Ness monster isn't usually a monster at all.
What?
Oh no! They were very grateful for the company, because they haven't seen anybody apart from their own people. They all look so much alike. You know, it's almost like looking at yourself, I should think, for them.
Well, that's very odd. I mean, you know, I mean, the fact that's happened. Do you know what I mean? That you've actually met them.
Yes, I've actually met them.
I mean, the scientific world would be up and sitting in their seats listening to this.
Well, I hope so, but I can't divulge exactly the exact coordinates or anything like that, because I promised them, and it was one of the provisos that we spent some time together, that I was never to relay any knowledge of their whereabouts.
Yeah.
So
what? So did you stay there the night then?
Oh, we stayed there several nights.
Did you?
Yes, yeah. And when we eventually left there, they brought over some gifts for us, which we took back up, and we didn't know what they were until we got back to the surface and back onto the boat.
Right.
they were like glowing stones.
Really?
They were like gemstones, but they glowed. Yeah. So
what were they, like green or blue or something?
Well, they changed colour.
Okay.
Yeah, they seemed to change colour, and whenever it was weird because whenever something. Well, we had a thunderstorm start to come in, and the thing started glowing red. But when it passed, it started to glow a light green.
Wow.
So it's almost like traffic lights, you know, like danger's approaching or something, it goes red, and when it's passed, it turns green.
Wow. So it alerts you to any problems, basically.
Well, it would appear so.
Maybe you should take it and give it to Boris.
Boris Johnson. Oh, is he still in the news, is he? Oh, good grief.
I know.
I haven't heard anything from him for a few weeks, thankfully.
No. Well, you've been in Scotland, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we don't want to know. Nobody in Scotland wants to know what Boris is up to.
No, I'm sure they don't. They are not madly keen on the man, are they?
No. No, they're not. But hey ho. Anyway,
I'm sure
when we got back to the shore, the skipper and I, Captain McTavish and I, we said goodbye to each other. I went and stayed with somebody I met up with a few days before, and stayed there for a few days, and just chilling out and taking in what I discovered, or what we discovered.
I'm sure you were astounded. You must have been in shock.
Well, in my business, old boy.
Well, yeah, of course. You meet monsters all the time, don't you?
Surprised. One has an open mind about everything.
Yeah.
And there's not surprised as such, but a little bit. Okay, I didn't think of that one. You see what I mean?
Well, yeah, because it is very different. I mean, the last time we spoke to you, you were out in Wiltshire or somewhere, and in a woods, and you met a Bigfoot.
No, that was Marley Common.
Marley Common, sorry, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
So
down near Oakenbot, around that area.
Where are you going next?
Ah, that's a big secret.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to go, as you know, a few weeks ago. I was going to go to Australia, but flights were stopped.
Yeah.
So I won't be going there for a while, but I will be going somewhere on the British Isles. So obviously I can't fly anywhere. So
okay.
All I can say is I'm going to go somewhere in Cornwall.
All right. Okay. Well, Cornwall's lovely. Very nice.
It is. It is.
Well, you'll enjoy that. Cornwall is lovely. And there is obviously a monster down there, isn't there? Well, there's the Beast of Bodmin.
Yes, and there's Boggits as well.
Boggits, yes.
So the Beast of Bodmin, that's not even worth investigating.
Right. So in your time you've been doing this, you haven't been doing it very long, have you?
No, I've only been doing it about a month now.
And what were you doing before that?
Oh, what was I doing before that? Oh, I can't remember. I think I was a painter and decorator or something.
All right. And then you suddenly thought, I'm going to go and be a monster hunter.
Well, I won the lottery, you see, so I thought,
well, that's always useful, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Rather than buy a big bloody house and swimming pool and muck around like that, I thought I'd get out and have a bit of adventure, a bit like Josh Gage, you know.
Yeah.
Go out, look for things and what have you.
Well, it sounds a good idea.
Yeah, so I'll be down Cornwall.
Wow.
Next time we speak. Yes, on the hunt for something very, very strange.
Wow. I'm sure the listeners are stunned with what you've just said, to be honest. And you know, I'm sure obviously the scientific world would love to speak to you, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't know, but I don't particularly want to speak to them. I mean, if I was to speak to them and divulge what I've seen, I'd probably be locked up and my funds taken from me and put in some kind of
that's
bank
true.
account.
Yeah, and they'd probably tell you got COVID as well.
Oh, yeah. COVID. Yes, COVID.
Yeah. Covert.
That's not even spoken about up in Scotland where I was around Inverness. Nobody even speaks about it.
No, I bet they don't.
No.
Yeah.
All they speak about is how damp and wet it is.
Yeah, and cold, I should imagine.
Oh, cold, yeah. And the snow is supposed to be coming.
Yeah. And everyone walking around wearing kilts.
Well, yeah. I mean, they must get a little cold up there, kilts, I should think.
Well, I should think they do. I mean, you know, I've watched the film Up the Khyber Pass.
Oh, yes. Carry on up the Khyber.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that a few years ago. Yeah. That was funny.
Because apparently they don't wear anything underneath and it frightened the enemy all the time.
Well, I suppose it would, wouldn't it?
I suppose it would, yeah.
You think they'd run around laughing, wouldn't you? For let's face it, if you're up in Scotland where it's really cold and wet and damp, your little wiener would have probably shriveled up to next to nothing.
Well, yeah.
So when they talked up, everybody started laughing and running away in sympathy.
Yeah, it'd just be a starter button, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
Well, you've been amazing, Mr. Monster Hunter.
Yeah, well, it's been fun talking to you. And
you know, you must be absolutely thrilled to, you know, find it for a start and find it civilized and find it actually wanting to sit down and talk to you.
Yes, I mean, I was a little bit taken aback, but I wasn't, like I say, surprised. Nothing surprises me these days.
No, I can imagine it doesn't. I can imagine it doesn't.
It's just confirmation that certain things do exist.
Yeah, outside the realm of our understanding, but they're there.
Absolutely.
And we'll be very interested.
One only has to know how and where to look.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see what you find when you're in Cornwall.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it will be. There won't be taking any Ginsters pasties anywhere, that's for sure. I'll get struck up.
Well, I'm sure you can entice it with a few rattlers.
Oh, I expect there'll be a few rattlers. Oh, yes. And we don't mean snakes.
No.
No.
Well,
it's been lovely speaking to you.
It's been amazing. And thank you very much. And I'm sure people are stunned by what you've just told them.
Oh, they probably are. They probably are stunned. They probably think, who is this mad idiot? Why isn't he locked up in Brookwood or something?
Well, yeah, I remember you're in the cell opposite. No, we look forward to speaking to you in a few weeks' time and see what you're doing down in Cornwall.
Yes, I shall look forward to it immensely. It's kind of like my home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay then, old boy. I want to see you later.
Yes.
Catch you later.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I have some more of the wet stuff to how can I put it? I'll wet my whistle with. I can't think of the words at the moment. I've had rather a few.
Yeah, well, I think that's really good. So you need to chill out after something like that.
Oh, of course you do. Of course you do. Takes all your woes away.
Absolutely.
Not that I can.
Well, the only worry you got is going down to Cornwall and finding some whatever it is you're going down there to find.
Well, yes, I will be armed. I should say, I will have my little stone with me with the way things are looking with it, I should be informed whether there's a danger around or whether it's safe to proceed.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And we look forward to speaking to you in a few weeks' time.
Yes, I should look forward to that.
And
Bye-bye.
take it easy. Yes, take it easy. Thank you very much, Mr. Monster Hunter. Thank you. There he is, the Monster Hunter. Well, what can you say? What a show. We come to the end, as with everything. I don't know where the time's gone. We've been on air 2.5 hours. I'd like to thank Susan and Gemma, both of them, for their very open and honest stories. Absolutely phenomenal. I hope you can go over it. If you missed parts of it, please go back and you can watch it again on YouTube or on Facebook. And obviously the Monster Hunter there coming up against the Loch Ness Monster and finding him being civilized. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? We will be back on Wednesday for our other show we do, which is very much about connecting to us here, well, me basically, and the Inview, the Inview Connect, which is very much about, you can come on and talk about anything you want, talk about COVID, talk about your hobbies, talk about anything. It's there as an opportunity for everyone to share stories, laugh, joke, whatever you want to do. Any views I'll put onto this show. And I'm really impressed with everyone, because we had over 2 different apps we have, Facebook and YouTube. We have over 250 people have watched last Wednesday's show, and I'm sure a lot of people watch this show. And please share it. Please share all of them. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe as well. And if there is anything you want me to talk about on the Wednesday show, we're going to bring in a paranormal bit for half an hour, where we're going to talk about a chosen subject. I'm going to talk about UFOs this week, and I'm going to tell you about UNESCO, which is the United Nations. That's the great United Nations we know of, Office for Outer Space Affairs. And it's not a little place. It's a big place. And it's a big, huge arm. So what do they do? What are they? I'm also going to talk about a headline that was in the news today, which on Wednesday I'm going to talk about, which is very much down to the SAS, our special SAS unit, of being trained to respond to an alien invasion. That was on the front page of a newspaper in our country today. So one of the things to remember, most importantly, before I go, and next week, I'll just tell you who's on the show next week. We have got next week on the show. Again, we've got guests now lined up all the way through to the end of February. Next week, we've got Melanie Kellaway, who's been on before, and Louise Love, that hasn't been on for some time. So it'd be really good to have her back on. That's next week, the 17th of January, and a special guest. So we have Melanie Kellaway, Louise Love, and a special guest on next week's Inview. The Inview Connect on Wednesday is very much your show, your interaction, your view, whatever it is you want to say. And it is to bring up any subjects. I'll have a load of news to talk about, I'm sure, as normal, and some views that I will have and put across to you. And then we'll go into a paranormal bit on that show as well, where we're going to look at UFOs and some very strange things that are going on in the background of COVID and everything else as well. You've been amazing guests. You've been amazing tonight. Thank you very much. I always love doing the Inview. It's always good to connect with you all. And remember, freedom of speech. And remember that that is really important. And, you know, there is no show like this anywhere on any television or internet, basically. It's a very open show for everyone's view. So we look forward to seeing you and speaking to you on Wednesday. Have a fantastic few days till Wednesday. and above all, stay positive, stay focused. I know that it looks doom and gloom and all sorts at the moment, but it will get better. I feel that within inside myself. So, you know, there will be a lot of things happen over the course of the next few months, which will defy our history, basically, which will be down to lots of changes in our environment. They're going to be very different to how it is right now. And a lot of it will be very much guided by whatever this government decides to do next. So have a safe time next few days, and do join us on Wednesday, 7 o'clock on YouTube Live. If you subscribe, or you subscribe to my page, whatever, you will get a reminder that I'm on. And catch up with old shows as well, because they're all really, really good. And I thank all my guests tonight. Been fantastic, amazing. It's great to have people, real stories, real people, real understanding. And have a fantastic next few days, and I'll speak to you all on Wednesday. Have a great week. Thank you very much, and good night.